Good afternoon, everyone. You have to answer. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Are you sure? Can you hear me? No? Can you hear me? Now you can hear me. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good, perfect. I hear you too. Thank you. But okay, so I'm advised the sound system is not very good, so if you can wear your headphones, you'd hear me better. So can you hear me? Oh, good, thank you. So I'll try not to shout in your earpieces, but bear with me. So my name is Jackie Kado, and as you've heard from the introduction with Doreen, I'm going to speak about creating the conditions for success and tailoring education to the local context. Now, if you were with me in the second forum in Mexico City, how many of you remember what science academies do? Just by a show of hands. How many people can remember? No? 1 year later and you've forgotten? So I'll run that by you one more time. Science academies exist for the sole purpose of getting scientists to contribute to science, to contribute to policy, and to be able to contribute to society. So those three things are why science academies exist. So they're honoraries or honorific societies of eminent scientists in any country that come together to do science for the common good. The next thing also I touched on at the last year's conference was the role of the network. The function we serve as a network of African science academies is to ensure that science academies collectively come together to be able to showcase the value add that science academies can bring on board to those three aspects: society, to science itself, to be knowledge producer, not just consumers, but also to policy, to be able to influence government and give advice. Currently, as a network, we serve 28 science academies, and we are able to try and get them to work in a unified way to present what we call the voice of science in the continent. So we're able to get these 28 African science academies to move together collectively and try and impact the changes, the Sustainable Development Goals or the Agenda 2063 of the African Union together for the better good of the continent. So let's look at education specifically. What have we done as an organization to ensure that not just education, but science education is taught well and used the local context? I'll name three things. One, we've set up a science education program that looks at how teachers and students are trained or how science is taught in schools to enable them have an inquiry-based aspect of it, to have more young people taking up science careers. The science education program also look at the science education curriculum to be able to contextualize it and make it relevant to the African continent. But going forward, once you have people taking on science, then it is important to break the silos that are created by the scientific disciplines we have in science itself. So you do not want scientists from the applied sciences not talking to social sciences, but then also you do not want scientists just speaking to scientists themselves. They need to get out of the lab, engage their governments who are political leaders or decision makers in their country, but then also do science that is relevant for society. So besides increasing the knowledge we have in science, we need to get scientists to be active outside the lab. So first thing, when we're talking about what would create a success when education is tailored for local context, is the act of transdisciplinarity. Essentially, I'm saying that the disciplines have to transcend the silos that are created, work in a collaborative manner, and ensure partnerships are enhanced. This is not my presentation, by the way. This is for the next speaker, so don't get confused with that. So, but also I want to say that all these have to be done in a sustainable manner. So we need to look at how disciplines can create new knowledge, can create new innovations or inventions that can better the well-being of society, of policy making, and of science itself. But then overall, and this is the last aspect that I want to bring to the fore, is that this cannot be done in isolation, but it has to be done in context. The contextual relevance for what scientists do is critical. So it means that local knowledge has to be propagated. I think, as you heard from the first speakers, that you do not start with empty vessels. There's some intrinsic knowledge that any student comes with to the classroom, and that needs to be taken into account. So the local knowledge has to be propagated as a first aspect of contextualizing education. Second aspect is that the local capacity needs to be enhanced. If we're talking about scientists, we need to have good, excellent scientists, scientists that can do world-class science in any platform. I mean, there's no such thing as European science and African science. Science is science, and if we're looking at excellence, it needs to be above board. So the local capacity in the continent has to be enhanced to be able for us to say that we have experts or expertise in various areas for science. But then last and not least is that education needs to take into account local priorities. Of what use if you can simply just cut and paste priorities of any other place in the world and then term it useful for the context that you want to apply it? It will not last. Number two, it will fail, and the enthusiasm and the buy-in of the participating stakeholders will wane over time. So the local priorities have to be addressed by education if at the end we're going to be successful in implementing education that is just contextually right, that is both inclusive and balanced. So finally, and my closing word is this, that if we're to have successful education, then we need to realize and consider the value that local contexts bring on board, but then also that it needs to be represented in a balanced and accurate manner for us to be able to use it. Thank you very much.